Let's be real. Star Trek has served some of the most iconic looks in sci-fi history. But if you could only rock one during Halloween or at your next convention, which costume would you choose? Well, that's exactly what we're going to settle in today's live stream as we count down the top 10 most epic alien looks in this Star Trek The Next Generation costume battle. So grab your ballot and let's start the show. Welcome to the Savage Stream, the weekly live stream where we talk all things Star Trek. I'm your host, Charisse, the Sci-Fi Savage, and today we are talking about 10 of the most iconic looks from Star Trek The Next Generation. So get ready. We're going to go over some of the main alien species and then a couple of my favorites. But the end vote is going to be up to you. Before we get started, though, I want to welcome a very special guest to the stage. So welcome, BlerdGirlCosplay.
Hello, everyone. Hi. I'm so happy to be here.
Let's see if I can make us closer. Hold on. No, I think this is what we got. Okay, this is what we got. This is okay. This is gonna work. Okay, hello and welcome. And I'm gonna read your bio in a second, but let me just say the reason why I'm so excited today. First of all, BlerdGirlCosplay. I've seen a lot of her videos on TikTok, but first of all, Blerd, do we need to say more? Already, I'm in. But also cosplay, and you're like, yes, I'm double in. And then this conversation about costumes and kind of alien looks. You are the perfect person to bring on stage to kind of share your opinion. And hello to everyone who's in the chat live. Hello to everyone watching on the replay. Just to let you know who my special guest is, I'm going to read her bio and then we're going to get started. So BlerdGirlCosplay, also known as Fiona Lewis, is a lifelong sci-fi nerd who's been exploring the cosplay world since 2013. She started off with some off-the-rack costumes and some fun closet cosplays, but in 2020, she decided to level up and make handmade costumes out of EVA foam and other materials. By the way, you can find the links for all of her socials in the description below. So, Fiona, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Charisse. Thank you so much for having me. I've been a lifelong Star Trek nerd, so this is even more special for me.
Yeah, and you have some super fun cosplays. So definitely check out BlerdGirlCosplay on Instagram and TikTok and all the things so you can see some of these really fun costumes. This is off topic for Trek, but I saw you just went to like the Power Rangers convention.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Ranger Station was amazing. The founder of it has been doing Power Ranger inspired convention, X-Men inspired conventions, and other things dirty. And I was so happy I was able to make it this time. Power Rangers was the reason why I got into martial arts. So believe it or not, it took me till my grown adult years to actually cosplay as a Power Ranger. So that was my first cosplay as a Power Ranger. And I had to show love to Mighty Morphin because that's where my heart lies.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That was one of my first and only costumes as a child growing up because my parents, we didn't have a lot of money. So buying Halloween costumes was like not really a thing, but I remember I actually got one of those costumes and girl, I was so disappointed because you know those Halloween costumes, they're basically pajamas, right? And I was like, oh, I'm wearing the Yellow Rangers pajamas. Like I thought, because I was a kid, I thought when I put it on, I was going to just morph. I was going to transform, right?
Yes,
and
you should be able to do like, transformation and instant costume. But no, those things were like tissue thin. It had the razor sharp plastic edges on the mask.
Yes. And do you remember the mask with like the string where you pull it back? If you pull it too tight, you break it. And now you don't have a mask, which is like the main part of the costume. Anyways, okay. So we're going to get started. I see everybody in the chat. We're going to get started with our first costume battle. So Fiona has not seen any of these. I mean, she's seen all of them on Star Trek, but she doesn't know what I'm going to pick. So I'm going to pick 10 of the most iconic costume alien looks from Star Trek The Next Generation. And I'm going to put them up 2 at a time. I love how At Home with Geek says, it's morphin' time. That's hilarious.
Yes.
So I'm going to put them up 2 at a time. And then I'm going to ask Fiona, like, which one would you choose from this one or that one and why? You're going to get a chance to answer in the chat and in the comments. And then we're going to move through all 10 and then have a big vote at the end. So,
well, the answer is all. I'm just saying it's all.
Yeah, that's not an option. There has to be a winner. Come on. Okay. So let's start with Oh, let's see. Yes. Okay.
Oh, see, the first thing I
Battle
want to
number one.
is that.
All the
Well,
rest are actual alien species. This is the only one where it's people and not like the whole species. And that's because Q has such an iconic look in this first episode in Encounter at Farpoint. And he also pulls out this costume again in All Good Things at the end. Throughout the show, he just dresses like a Starfleet captain. So it's not too dynamic. He does have that one episode, that really stupid one. I think it's Hide and Q. I don't know, that really stupid
yes.
episode where he wears a bunch of different outfits and those outfits are dope. But this one, like, this is Q, you know? And Guinan, the hat and the purple, like, so your thoughts. Which of these outfits, if you could only pick one, which of these outfits would you pick and why?
Well, first off, I have to say, I love that they're both supporting the headwear, the headgear and stuff. This is a sleigh for both of them. Like, Guinan is the most iconic look, and she really has that embodiment of like something very earthy, very natural, and yet still galactic. I mean, she started this series. You thought she was there from episode 1. She didn't start to season 2. So this is a great look. But oh my gosh, the pomp and circumstance as judge of humanity. Q was giving some looks in this. Although that the little lipstick thing, maybe not my choice, but oh my gosh, that robe is big and billowy. And you know, if he was walking, he'd be swishing that around. So these are hard choices. But I have to rep for Guinan. Whoopi Goldberg is amazing. I have to represent for Guinan. This is a look I would do.
Oh, I love that. Okay. And just to piggyback on that, they're both wearing really epic hats. You can't really see
Yes.
Q's in the picture, but his hat is very
It's
similarly like amazing.
I call it the Enterprise D dish shape. That's what they were doing for all headgear. It's the saucer
It's the
section
saucer section.
as a hat.
It's just the detachable saucer section put right on people's
Yes.
heads. How did they keep it up? I don't know. Like, if I was to cosplay this, okay, so if you were to cosplay Guinan, since I know you do a ton of cosplay, is this one that you would buy or is this one you would DIY?
So if you with a lot of the uniforms, there are some really great people who actually have great costume replicas that actually are like licensed from there. But when I think about any of the other characters like Gaiden, this is something I would make. And they actually
Mm.
create, there are some great templates that, as I'm a very amateur seamstress, so if I can glue and sew and stitch it together, I will be doing that. But for this one, it has such a billowy, flattering look. And for someone who has curves, this would be very nice to actually accentuate without being too robust, This would be
Yeah.
a great way to do like great drapery, great accessories, and then
And with
to
the
be
giant
able to
hat, do you even need accessories? Like, it's just like, it is
exactly.
the piece, it's the centerpiece. Also with that idea of DIY, because I also sew my own cosplays and stuff and very amateur seamstress. But the other thing I'm thinking what you just said about the draping is you could make a really kind of form-fitted dress, right? Because Guinan's was always like a muumuu. It was just like straight, right? But
Yes.
you could make a really form-fitted, really flowy, like ruched purple dress with just the cool
There,
hat. And everybody
there
would be
are
like,
ways to
Guinan, sexy
there
Guinan.
are ways to get that like, fitted like bodice look and still keep it very flowing and elegant. And she does has that stately, elegant look no matter what she wears. So
Yes.
yes, you could definitely achieve this.
Yes, love it. Okay, I love it. I'm gonna take some comments from the chat and then we're gonna hit look number 2. So many comments in the chat. Okay. Nadia says, OMG, I would choose Guinan. Looks so comfortable. That's a good point. Q's does look a little uncomfortable. His is also a robe, so it's not tight, but it's got like the gloves and it's got some other things going on. Okay, although I probably couldn't pull off the hat. I would try. I'm not a hat girly, but I would try that hat. I would try to make it work. Okay. At Home with Geek says, love Guinan, but Q got that drip. Okay. So we already got some differing opinions. Wind Grace says, I always thought Guinan's hat was the Enterprise D. So for that reason, I am choosing her. Way to go with loyalty to Enterprise. Nadia says, I think Q's judge robe was over the top. But I guess that was the point. Yes, that totally was the point. Um, At Home with Geek says, I was always a fan of Guinan's advice. Very bartender of her instead. Okay, so are you saying you would rather have her as the bartender and not as the fashionista? Because I feel like there's space for both. Jackin? You know what? I'm saying your name all wrong. Let me know in the chat how to actually pronounce this. Guinan just exudes wisdom. I love that. I love that. And epic hats are always a centerpiece. Wingray says, saying sexy Guinan made me flash back to Mad TV or something. Did Mad TV do that? Wingray, if you could find that clip and send that to me, I would love that. Okay. All right, let's go to, I said it perfectly. Jackin, I did not say it perfectly, but thank you. Yeah. All right, let's go to look number 2. Okay,
Ooh.
battle 2 is Romulan versus Vulcan, which honestly are almost the same to me. There are some differences in the Romulan, prosthetics, but I get that they're supposed to be related, but they are so similar. So, Fiona, I'd love to hear your take on this.
Well, this is actually a great example of cultural differences between species that's so uniquely linked. I mean, they have the same origin species. When you think of Vulcans, you're going to think of something very more, I would like to use the term collegiate, for more scholarly. It's going to be very simple. It's nothing's going to be flashy. Nothing's going to be like, look at me. So you're going to probably have very great monochromatic robes, long drapery. Like just walking down a corridor or a hallway with that, like those long robes would be amazing. And come on, you gotta love the ears. I mean, and no matter how you style your hair, whether it's pixie cut or not, those ears are a must. But when I think about the Romulans, they're very militaristic. I mean, again, it's a very like monochromatic scheme, but it's very bold. They want to be intimidating. So with the shoulder pads and the hawk-like expression of their outfits, their architecture, their ships, they're on the hunt. So it's going to be very like dominating. So if you really want to intimidate someone, I would choose Romulan.
So is this like what to wear in a fight? Is that what we're saying? Like if you were gonna okay.
Exactly.
I hear you on that.
If you want to reason yourself out of the conversation, it's like, hey guys, let's talk about it. I'll dress Vulcan. If you want to win that fight and come in intimidating, I would dress Romulan.
You know what I think is so interesting about these 2 pictures I pulled? And if you guys notice all these pictures, I did literally go into every single episode to find the perfect scene. So these are not just like grabbed from the internet. That's why they're not all super grainy. But what I noticed about this picture that I didn't notice before is they both have a triangle shape in their shoulders. Like they both have shoulder pads, which I never noticed with Vulcans. I always pictured them as having kind of big flowy robes. But I pictured the Romulans having really angular, like tight kind of really boxy clothing as opposed to flowy. But looking at this, you can see actually even the inspiration for their outfits is very similar. But what's different is maybe the fabric choice. One looks bulletproof, one doesn't. One has, words down the side, probably like his name or something. And the other is like clearly a uniform, one size fits all. Any Romulan can get in and out of that same jacket right there. And I thought that was really interesting because most of their similarities I saw was just in the ears. And then here I'm like, oh, they're even kind of pulling in the outfits. And I think the facial features are very different. If you were going to cosplay this at home, Vulcan would be 1,000 times easier because there's no prosthetics, right? Like there's no ridges that you have to do. You just put on some, I guess, the earpieces and a little wig and you're good. But the Romulan is definitely more of a bold look. I would totally agree with you there. All right, let's check.
It's definitely the silhouette for me because you think it kind of starts from the top and it silhouettes down, very grounded and rooted. Whereas for me, the Romulans always seem like they're on their toes, they're ready to attack. So everything is drawn up. So even that pyramid shape is upside down. Like the point of the most broadest is coming at you at eye level. So that's why I think those 80s shoulder pads or attack shoulder pads really comes into play to accentuate that.
The war shoulder pads.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, Nadia says, I would go Vulcan. Simpler prosthetics. Like I said, I should have read these first. Vulcans go comfy and logical in the clothes. Romulan clothes are too militaristic and boring. They do look kind of boring this far away, but I will say, if you zoom in, like especially that episodes with Selay where they're doing the close-ups on her face,
Mhm.
you can see the patterns in the
It's
clothing, and it's
textured.
actually, yes, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It is grays and blacks, so it's still pretty monochrome, and from far away you're like, but close up you're like, wow, the amount of detail to create that is gorgeous and kind of unnecessary, right? Like, this is as close as we see it on the show. It didn't need to be all that detailed, but it was. So At Home with Geek says, I think the robes from Search for Spock are peak Vulcan all day long. So we got 2 votes for Vulcan. Nadia says, except for the elaborate hairstyles and headpieces that the Vulcan women wear. Yeah, I was thinking about Sarek's wife, and she was wearing, when she was in the episode Sarek, she was wearing like pink. So she had something bright. She had really like bright colors, and she had a cool headband and all of that stuff. But I chalk that up to her being human. So I don't know. My knowledge of Vulcans is very limited. So maybe all the women are just that cute. I don't know. And then Nadia says, although Romulans are so sneaky that they probably have a million hidden pockets to smuggle weapons and other elements of spycraft. Maybe that's what the patchwork is for. It's just for
I
weapons.
think so too. I think so too.
When Gareth says, go on, brush your shoulders off. All 6 miles of them.
Yes.
Adam with Geek says, secret Romulan pockets are great for every day for me. I always need pockets, right? Seriously. And a lot of women's clothing, like the pants and stuff, don't have pockets for, fashion. It's super irritating because you're like, where am I supposed to put my phone? No pockets. Romulans pockets all day. And then At Home with Geek says, attack shoulder pads. Dangerous couture. I love that. I love that.
Look out, Balenciaga.
All right. Battle number 3. I didn't realize I still had the slides up. Battle number 3. Klingons versus Cardassians. Now you want to talk about pockets? This is the pockets. This is the pockets, the belt, the chains, the baldrakes, the hidden weapons in your shoes. This is it. So
you're taking
which
off
one?
pieces off of your shoes and your belt and any sash, and you're making weapons. Like, so for like the grittiness, I love the Klingons. I mean, it's just they're a warrior species, so they're wearing their their whole culture on them, like from the insignias to the ranks to like any emblems or embellishments, is to like talk about your wins in battles. Something about that like grittiness is really exciting. And oh my gosh, I would love to be able to just do the whole prosthetic. I mean, I would definitely rock Klingon.
Oh, no love for the Cardassians. We're done with the vote.
So they have interest here. It's kind of the same thing you saw with the Romulans with that same gray monotone. Their outfits are very textured. I mean, from like ribbing to cross hatching to like just the extra like embellishments here. Again, a very militaristic like society, but because naturally as their species they have those really wide necks, they don't need to accentuate just the shoulders the way they do. Although I've seen like different gulls have like different embellishments right around here to kind of really frame it, so it feels more like trapped in that shape. So you're more like captain in that whole shape of their outfits. So it's intriguing, but come on. I've been with the Klingons since, day one. We have come a long way since Golden May vests and screw polish on the face. We have come a long way.
We've come a long way, and then in Discovery we went a little bit further, and then we turned back, and then we came back a little bit. And then we landed back.
You have to go back. Go back.
Sometimes we gotta go back, and that's okay. That's okay. They tried something new. It didn't work out, but they tried it, and that's what we're celebrating here. So I would love to hear what you think in the chat, Cardassians, Klingons, but I am 100% with you. Not only that, I feel like the Cardassian outfits there's so much, it's probably leather, but if I made it, it'd be plastic or foam. There's so much hard pieces on their costume that it just looks like you can't twist, don't drop anything because you can't bend to pick it back up. You know what I mean? And it just looks like, it looks cool, but it looks tight. It looks very constraining. And the Klingon outfit, on the other hand, is also a lot. There's a lot going on in a Klingon outfit, and it goes all the way from Worf just wearing a baldrake, and that's not much, all the way to what we saw in that clip where it's layers and layers and layers. but it seems comfortable and it seems practical to me.
Yes.
Like every pocket has a purpose. Every piece of metal can do something. And, you know, every knife needs to be there.
If I'm at a con and I need to sit down to drink my blood wine, I want to be able to sit and relax. They're going to play hard. They're going to fight hard. They're going to win hard. That outfit has to be practical. So I'm Klingon all day.
So let me ask you this again. Would you buy or DIY?
So that's a very interesting because I actually haven't
let's pretend like
seen.
the prosthetics done though, because that's tough. Let's
Yes.
pretend like that's done by a professional.
If someone's doing that for me, I'm like, hallelujah. But oh my God, I would love to make just the baldric right across Seth. I would do that out of like EVA foam. You can mimic a lot of fabric and leather and metal materials with foam to really make it convincing. I could really do that, or that vest piece. And the undergarments, you could probably, hijack some stuff that's off the rack to be your undersuit or bodysuit. Or if you're really talented, stitch yourself up a short, get some pants, and then do your foam overlay over top. It would probably be a very intricate build, but it's definitely doable.
Yeah, I agree. I think either of these, the Cardassian uniform or kind of the Klingon layers, I think either of those could be bought or DIY'd. If you buy it, I would buy the full shebang, like the whole thing, not some, pajama version. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're buying like professional grade. Or I would DIY. What I love about the Klingon outfit, like when I was thinking about this last night, I was thinking about this time when my cousin and I went to the Renaissance Fair and we met this woman who was dressed very steampunk, which I love that look. And she had all these bits and baubles and things, like cogs as her earrings and things like that. And we had stopped her because my cousin was just gushing over how cute she looked. And she had mentioned that she was wearing like this little like bowler top hat. And so my cousin was like, what a cute hat. And she tipped her hat and said, thank you so much. And when she tipped it, she had a smaller version of the hat under the hat. And it was like, oh my gosh. And she said she wears that outfit every year to the Renaissance Fair and she adds a new piece to it every year. And so her costume's never done. And she's got like a wind up thing in the back. She's got all kinds of things. Anyways, that thought came to me last night. And I thought this is what the Klingon costume could be. Like you can go for the simple like undergarments and baldrake, the cowl, the wig, the prosthetics, the makeup. And that's good enough. But that's something you could wear to a con every single year. And every year you add a new piece. And it just becomes this garment, which is so much fun, right?
You can definitely, this with the intricacies, you can continue to layer and build upon it, which will make it even more your own. So I would love to like spend that time and invest that kind of time and have that cosplay that grows with you. And as you perfect it and add more, this like Klingons, it's just the culture alone gives you so much opportunities to update, to modify, to change, and to really make it your own. So yeah.
And I would go Kalar's route where she didn't have the pointy teeth because I don't love those. So I would opt out of those. And I've never done all those prosthetics. Let me know in the chat if you have done prosthetics. I've never done prosthetics, so I don't know how comfortable that would be for hours, but I just feel like it would look so good that I would be okay with it.
It would.
I would make it work. Have you done prosthetics before, Theona?
Outside of Vulcan ears, which I have done, no face prosthetics. I would love to, because my God, the number of alien forms that would be.
Nadia says Klingon equals way better than Cardassian wear. And then she says, although both costumes are probably super hot to wear, those fabrics do not look breathable. No, the Cardassian fabrics do not look breathable. But the thing at conventions is that they are so cold, at least for me, and I'm always cold. So I'm always freezing at a convention. And depending on the costume I wear, sometimes I'm like, I wish I would have worn something with more layers as the costume, just so I wouldn't be cold inside. But yeah, I still want it to be breathable. I don't want to be suffocating. You're right about that. Carlos says, Cardassians now, they really are sneaky, but it's Klingon for me. Okay, so we got another vote for Klingon. Wingrace says, I might have to dark horse this and say Cardassian because of Garrick and his skills. So maybe you wouldn't be all Cardassians. Maybe you would be Garrick specifically. Nadia says, I love the blue disco uniforms. They're absolutely my favorite. They are so gorgeous. I wish I could make, because I have a casual wear of the TNG costumes, Voyager costume, and the TOS costume. But Discovery, I cannot figure out how to make that uniform as a t-shirt because it looks too fancy. So if you have thoughts, send me an email. Let me know. info@thescifisavage.com. At Home with Geek says, Klingon gear is showier than most. And I admit being biased because of Worf and B'Elanna Torres. So again, we have
Yeah.
another kind of like, because of these characters, I just want to look like them. And I'll be honest, that clip that I just showed was from Kalar. And I think Kalar is just like the coolest. And that scene where she walks into the bridge and she sits down and she's like, yeah, I'm the captain. It's just like, oh, I want to be her. So I hear you on that one. PS2 Cypher says, hi from China. Hi from China. I hope you still have your kidneys, friend. Let's see. Nadia says, as Faith from Buffy would say, 5 by 5. I think that's for Klingons. At Home with Geek says, the Renaissance Fair is a place where hat on a hat works. That's right. And there's not too many places where hat on a hat works. Nadia says, has everyone here done cosplay? Because I have not actually. LOL, maybe I'm the only one who hasn't. Well, I will say, and maybe Fiona, I want to hear your thoughts on this, but I will say that cosplay, in my opinion, doesn't have to be elaborate. Like, you don't have to look like a Klingon for it to be cosplay. I've seen people go to a con and they're just wearing like Star Wars t-shirt or something like that. And it's not cosplay because you're not actually being a costume, like a character, but I think it is still showing your love for a fandom. So maybe your toe has been dipped in the pool, even if you're not full on prosthetics and makeup and, costumes. But Fiona, you've been doing this since 2013. What are your thoughts on cosplay and like where could somebody start if they've never done it before? Because Klingon may be a bit too far.
Yeah, I mean, yes, if you're going to go and be straight up Borg day one, I'm like, more power to you. But like when I started, I was doing those I call it closet cosplays, because a lot of the characters from like genre shows or comic books, you think of the X-Men, you think of the Avengers, they had street clothes. So like a smart wig and a jacket that looked like Tony Stark, or maybe your exercise gear that you made look like Black Widow, are great entry points where you're kind of cosplaying that look or that aesthetic without going crazy. You don't have to break the bank to get started in cosplay. I love the fact that with other retailers out there that you can actually start getting things that look very much like what you see on screen, and they are increasing the quality. They're making it look better. They're not all plastic ridges that will scratch your face when you put the mask on. You can
With
get
the
some
straps
really
that'll break as
convincing
soon
look.
as you put them on. Yeah.
And what I like is the creativity. I've seen people who are in their street clothes, but they created a look and an aesthetic that just gives that same like energy of the character or their fandom passion. Which I remember seeing someone who had constructed a simple tutu and put a little overlay and was a Millennium Falcon. That and their basic full Han Solo gear. I mean, it was just the leggings, the vest, and the shirt, and they just put a little tutu and put a Millennium Falcon overlay, and they were Star Wars. I mean, you can be so creative with this without, saying, oh, I have to be screen accurate. I have to get the Mark I Iron Man suit or else it's nothing.
And the faceplate has to open on command with voice activation. Yeah.
Exactly.
My very first cosplay was a full-on TNG uniform from season 1. And I mean, like a full onesie from head to toe. And it's so funny because I put elastic in the waistband because that's what's supposed to go there. But when you sit down, elastic rides up. So every time you stand up, you have to pull it down. So I was doing the Picard maneuver every time I stood up, but that's because the way the outfit is, you have to pull it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is really uncomfortable. So when I went to remake that outfit, which no longer fits at all, I was like, okay, I want another Star Trek outfit. But I was like, a onesie, it's no fun because every time you have to go to the bathroom, you have to get totally naked. And I was just
that's
like,
what the actors complained about. They did not want onesie. They said, let's do two pieces. Come on.
Two pieces. Don't get me wrong, the onesie looked good, but like 2 pieces, okay? So for my next iteration, I just made a t-shirt that looks like the TNG uniform, but now I can put a t-shirt on top of some black pants. I don't have to do all that with the onesie. And so sometimes that constraint of not being screen accurate makes it more wearable costume is all I'm saying. At Home with Geek says Dr. Steggy on IG builds her Link cosplay every con. Each time I've seen her, she has more gear. That's so much fun. That's so cool. And then it's something that like the fans can, not that you need fans because really it's for you, but if you're somebody who's a persona, The fans can also follow along and be like, oh, you added a new piece. Oh, I just saw that, you know? At Home with Geek says, I've done cosplay back in the day, but nothing like what Blurred Girl does. When Gray says, I've done cosplay, but I've not made any myself. Nadia says, during flu season or COVID-19 flare-ups, Guinan's costume is probably the best. That hat will force people to social distance. One swing of her head with that hat, and you will move. I like that, especially for those close talkers. And At Home with Geek says facts, especially for those close talkers who think it's like the 90s and they want to be all up in your face. And you're like, woo, we don't do that anymore. We don't do that anymore.
I'm reaching
Yes.
into that bar and grabbing Guinan's, Dazzler gun and be like, this is setting one, y'all. 6 feet away, please.
All right, let's go on to battle number 4. The Ferengi versus the Borg. I kind of went with two. I mean, also the Klingons. The Klingons have a lot of prosthetics. But I went with two people who have a lot of stuff that you have to put on to count as an outfit. The Ferengi, it's all about the headpiece and the cowl and the wraparound and the ears. And the outfit itself is I think it's pretty easy. It's pretty tame because the face is the statement piece. The head's the statement piece. So the outfit can just be like super simple. The Borg, on the other hand, it's kind of the opposite. The face is super simple. White face paint, boom, done. But you got to put gears and wires and things, augments all over the place. So, Fiona, thoughts?
Okay, yes, you got me excited with this. Okay, first, let me just talk about the Ferengi. I mean, if you have that skill to do the full head prosthetics, more power to you. I mean, you could put on anything. You could, honestly, if you have an old sofa, you just take that old polyester, you got a suit, you got a shirt. That's what most of the Ferengi outfits look like. Big, gears, loud. I mean, you can wear anything. So comfortability for the bodysuit would probably be Ferengi. But oh my gosh, when the Borg showed up, that captured my imagination. And when I was watching the episode from behind the couch, because I was like, they're attacking the ship. Just all the Goebbels, all the doodads, all the things. Believe it or not, you could do a simple vest and just start gluing stuff to it. Like old model pieces, bobbins or loose threads, just glue stuff to it, spray paint everything black. And if you're in a black bodysuit, white face paint, you can actually get a very convincing Borg-like aesthetic with just taking randoms, odds and ends for it. This is my peak idea of what my next cosplay project, my next level would be, is to make the full Borg outfits.
So is that the winner?
Borg is the most interesting for me. So that's the challenge where I want to roll up my sleeves and say, hey, how do I achieve this look? Because if you look at even the behind the scenes and some of the costuming, talk about what they did, they literally grabbed odds and ends to really make those mechanical things. There's tubes attached to nothing. And they said, hey, look, it's assumed this is vital. And you can actually get a lot of that same look without having to be like, hey, you have to be with Michael Westmore, 24/7 taking the master class and learn how to do all this. You could create this and get something very convincingly. Now, if you want to up your game with the LED lights and animatronics, go for it. But you could do a very decent Locutus walking around and be like, laser pointer, like, I am Locutus of Borg. You could do that with stuff that you can actually find find locally.
And this is not this episode, because this episode we're talking about TNG. But if we were talking about Voyager, Seven's costume is super easy, right? Because you just have a little cute thing right here, and then just a little cute thing on your hand. Boom, I'm Borg, right? So there's ways to I'm liberated Borg. There's ways to dress it down and just be like, oh, I'm liberated. That's why I don't have all the rest of the augments.
That was just like, hey, we made our own collective, and they were, humanoids with various parts. I mean, you think about even season 1 of Picard, you had the Borg that were taking off those parts. So there's many ways.
Q and all the others. Mm-hmm. And Q also had a cute little augment, and that was it.
Exactly. There's many avenues into this to kind of say, hey, oh, that's a Borg there.
Yeah. This one's easy for me. Borg 1,000%. I would never want to look like the Ferengi. All of that seems heavy. Like it seems heavy and hot. And I actually did see a mask, you know, similar to those Power Ranger masks. I saw one last night that was a Ferengi mask. And I was like, well, that makes it easy. It's literally just like the Dead Presidents. You just slip it on and you've got the Ferengi mask. And I was like, all right, I mean, I could probably rock that because that seems okay. Like you could breathe a little bit in those. It does get all sweaty and gross inside, but imagine how sweaty and gross it gets inside a full prosthetic with the whole thing and like it seems no fun at all. However, I will say I think the Borg Queen said the actress who played the Borg Queen said she spent something like 12 hours in makeup.
Yeah, I was cool.
Anything.
Like she was the first call on that strip, and sometimes they would just pay her from the waist up. She was the first one called. Like her shoots was not until late in the day because it took that much time to just do all the body paint and the makeup and the prosthetics.
But it looked so good. Oh my gosh, Borg Queen, that would be my ideal cosplay. But I would never sit for 12 hours to do anything. But like, oh, it looks so good.
Yes.
But yeah, for me, it's definitely Borg. Let me check the chat and get on to our next one. But that was a good one. I love your insights, Fiona. Let's see, where was I? Okay. Nadia says, okay, this one is hard. The Ferengi outfit is so comfy looking, which is great. But the Borg costume must make a person feel really, really cool. And I agree. Like, I probably wouldn't feel as cool in a Ferengi outfit. Like, I wouldn't feel like, ooh, check me out. I'm Ferengi, you know? But man, I mean, to Theona's point, grab some polyester or whatever. That sounds like a nice day to me. The Borg stuff, whatever you wear, I don't know if you can sit. I don't know if you're going to be able to
sit with that headpiece on. You can put a Hawaiian shirt and be like, I'm Ferengi. Half of the cosplay half the cosplay is just the attitude. So for me, I would have to think like, I hate to say it, like a 13-year-old boy, be like, female, I need profit. I just don't naturally exude that. But Borg, I've been like assimilation. Like I'm like very direct. I'm like I can give some orders and expect you to jump. Wait, there is no resistance.
That's hilarious. At Home with Geek says, I'd be worried about getting stuff caught on other stuff with the Borg costume. I'm good for getting stuff caught on stuff. Yeah, that's the other thing is like if you were because I always think about this with going to conventions. I'm very thoughtful about which costumes I do and do not want to wear. For that reason, my first time at Comic-Con, I had a cape. And sitting down with a cape, you got to kind of like, you don't want to sit on it because it'll like pull at the neck and just things you have to think about, where I was like, don't wear a cape next time, right? So I'm thinking with the Borg thing, it'd be similar where even if you arranged it so you could sit, you can't sit back because there's probably stuff on the back. And so it's like, don't sit back. You can't lean on a back. Like if you're standing in line, you also can't just like lean on something because you're going to mess up the outfit. This is different from like a stormtrooper outfit where it's like nice and smooth. And you could sit and you could stand and you could
the same kind of issues because I sitting in something that looks like a plastic diaper will kind of be a little hard. So, comfortability.
Well, the thing with the stormtrooper costume is you got to put the hinges in the right place.
Yes,
like you got to put the brakes in the right place. So when you sit, the diaper part is separate from like the back and the knees. Otherwise, ask me how I know. Otherwise, when you bid, your beautiful smooth thing gets a bunch of wrinkles. And the paint cracks, and you're like, duh, because these things take a lot of time.
Fandoms to unite, so we can share these like tips. Like, tips. Make sure you hinge the back of your Borg booty. So make sure you can
hinge the butt, hinge the knees. You got to hinge those knees exactly. Carlos says this one is hard to be biased because they're my two favorite aliens. Quark is the best ever. And then I think there was probably, I'm going to definitely go with Borg. Wow. Quark is your favorite ever, but Borg still wins. Sorry, Quark. Windgrace says Borg, but I'd assimilate a Ferengi for their laser whip. Yeah, that laser whip was so silly. I wonder, because there is a world where you could do both of these costumes because of the Borg. You can have an assimilated Ferengi. That might be dope. Like
I like that mashup.
That might be dope.
Take the Borgified orb, the mind controlling orb, and be like, I have this new tech, and I augmented it. There you go. If I was doing Ferengi, for my heart would be with Nog, because Nog, I mean, he was a Starfleet cadet. I mean, like this,
But Quark
you know,
is a really good character that
true.
single-handedly saved the nonsense of the Ferengi in TNG. Like, what were they doing? We don't know. But we get to DS9 and we get Quark, and you're like, oh, okay, wait, these could be like actual characters. You know,
Yes,
so like we
aliens are
wouldn't
people too.
exactly. We couldn't have Nog if we didn't have Quark because we don't know what the writers were doing with the Ferengi in TNG. But it wasn't good. PS2 Cypher says, just need a body like Jerry Ryan in order to get into that cat suit. Exactly. That's the only thing you need if you want to dress
Don't
like
buy
Seven of
insane.
Nine.
Don't buy insane. I mean, you're going to get. It's not going to be 7'9". It's going to be 14 of 28 in this costume. But
I actually
cosplay your way.
I actually always feel bad for the actors in this show because they can't eat a single carb for 7 years because they are wearing skin tight outfits with no space for anything. And I always feel like that would be pretty miserable. I mean, it's their career, I guess, but it just makes me sad. Like, it makes me sad that I would be able to look at bread but not taste the bread for years
Mhm.
and years and years because if you gain 1 pound, your whole outfit has to be redone. Like, come on, dude. Yeah, that catsuit was wild. Nadia says, if I had Jerry's body, which I do not, I would have gone with the heels she always wore, not
Ooh.
for someone who stands even when regenerating. I would not have gone with the heels. I would not have gone with the heels. Yeah, she did always wear heels. Like all the women wore heels, even if they were kind of short heels. I think that's just a sign of the times. But yeah, that's a very good point. If you're regenerating for 8 hours, why are we wearing heels, boo? Like we could wear flats. But she's Borg. They're tough like that.
She's been augmented to make sure that her legs were stable no matter what.
At Home with Geek says that I did not listen to Edna Mode the first time when she said no capes. I didn't, but as I was walking through downtown San Diego on my way to Comic-Con with all of the crowds of homeless people and not a single other person cosplaying, I did have that quote going in my head. I was like, yeah, I'm walking down the street in a leather bodysuit with a cape. This is what I'm doing today. So I didn't wear that the next time.
Uh, I love me a cape. I'm like young Lando, but like my closet would be full of capes if I could wear it. If I could wear that every day, why would you not rock a cape?
I love that. I would wear a cape every day. I love that. When Grace says decorate a hand truck as a regeneration alcove and have a friend push you, push your resting place. That's actually funny. I did see this one cosplay. It was so cute. It was two dads and their two babies, and the babies could walk. They were maybe like 1, and they had them in like a cage upside down with wheels. So the babies were holding on to the wheels to like help them walk. And the two dads were dressed like orcs and they had their babies dressed like hobbits. And it was just the cutest thing because it was like the scale and the babies were just, walking around at the con, living their best life. And the dads were like, it was so cute. Really, really well thought out costume. Let's see. PS2 Cypher says, I would imagine some fights broke out at the craft table over those Hollywood diets. I know, right? Like, there probably wasn't even anything on the craft table. It's probably celery and water. Because, like,
Mhm.
all those scenes when Rita Sirtis, the actress who plays Troy, was eating chocolate because that was her favorite thing. Every scene where she was eating chocolate, she had a spit bucket next to her to spit it out
Mhm.
because she couldn't swallow the chocolate because she would gain weight and not fit in her bodysuit. How sad is
And
that? I
maybe
don't even know if she likes chocolate, actually, the actress,
And
which is also kind
and
of a
if it
shame.
wasn't two takes breaks, I mean, you were doing scene after scene after scene. So like,
Mm,
I'm like, I would be like holding food. I would never put it in my mouth because like I'm gonna have to like spit this out or throw it up like afterwards. Like no, it's like that's just too
that's
many takes.
that's
I
gross.
mean, I
Yeah,
love
or go
ice
for like
cream.
a 3-hour jog because of the 2 bites of cake you had accidentally on set. Goodness gracious. At Home with Geek says parenting done right. I totally agree. I think I love the family. I saw another cosplay as a family, and then I'm going to get off the family things. But another cosplay, and they were it was a Doctor Who cosplay, and they were doing the so like the dad was the doctor, the mom I think was a companion. One kid was a Dalek, the son was a Dalek, the daughter was a weeping angel, and I was like, oh, like
The whole
never
universe.
before have I wanted to be married from that moment, except for that moment. I was like, okay, now I want to be married. And I want to have a family that loves dressing up just like me, which I know I can't control that, but I'm going to try. Isn't that the cutest thing?
I love that.
So cute.
I've seen people decorate strollers to look like R2D2 while their kids sat in there. I was like, that's perfect.
So smart. It's like
The
it's so clever.
creativeness.
It's so clever. Okay, on to battle number 5. A
Oh,
Bolian or a Bajoran. And I picked these two because I think they're both, granted, the Bolian is a lot of makeup, but I think overall they are simple looks. The costume, like the outfit, is not as prevalent as what's going on in the face, but I think they're both simple looks. Bajoran's very subtle, and the Bolian is not very subtle, but it's a simple look, right? It's one split down the middle. They
yeah.
didn't go wild with the prosthetics here, but that was enough to make a really interesting look. So Theona,
Yeah.
thoughts?
I mean, this you can achieve. Both of these are looks that like a very new cosplayer could achieve. Like, you could do a ball cap and with some body paint and face paint, you can get yourself whatever color you like. And for the bullion, like you can wear a very simple outfit and be comfortable and then have that very statement, that bright blue skin. Um, and then just portray the character. I mean, you can walk around with some like haircut and say, like, you need a trim, you need a trim, and just be the exact same guy from the Enterprise.
Just
But
be Mott the barber.
exactly. Oh, but when it comes to Bajorans, you have so many Bajorans to choose from, and you can do looks for both Bajorans who are in Starfleet, Bajorans who are in, the Bajoran Guard. You have your priesthood, you have farmers, you have rebels, you have a lot of great looks, and there's a lot you can do with makeup that kind of gives you that same hint of ridges without actually putting on prosthetics. So, and I just love the jewelry. I mean, I would be definitely rocking the earrings. I would definitely do the makeup to look like the ridges here, and it can be a very tasteful look. So I would probably lean more Bajoran naturally just because of my personality, but both looks are definitely something that any cosplayer could achieve.
Yeah, I love that. I love those takes, and I do feel like, so we do see a female Bajoran in the episode Allegiance where Captain Picard's
Mhm.
kidnapped. And so she has hair, and the split just kind of goes into her hairline. And then you don't really see it anymore. So if you don't want to do the bald cap, or you don't know how to do a bald cap, because I don't know how to do one, there is a possibility of doing this look with just having the split stop at
Yeah,
your hairline. Um, and I agree with you. I think these are both good looks for beginners, whatever that means. But if you're getting started with cosplay, these might be good looks to go with. I haven't seen somebody do the ridges with makeup without prosthetics, but I have seen someone do a Klingon look with just makeup and just like
I,
shadows and ridges, which I would have never thought possible because it seems there's like a lot going on. So if you could do that for Klingon, you could absolutely do that for a Bajoran, where it's a lot more, it's just centered right here. You don't need the whole forehead and everything else. Um, yeah. So let me check the chats. This was easy. Nadia said Bajoran all the way. And Chaotic Truth, I see you're asking for the link. All the links are in the description, but I think you're asking for the link to chime in on this. So we're about to wrap this up, but if you do have ideas, you have thoughts on like which characters you prefer, definitely let me know in the chat. But we're almost done with this. Nadia says, especially after they got rid of the little Y prosthetic between Ro's eyes. Kira didn't have that. Yeah, they did some upgrades when they got to DS9. Also with the like the trill look was a different thing in TNG, but
yeah.
still beautiful. I think it's one of their best decisions in the history of decisions to bring back that look and just say, okay, these are the trill. Because the other trill look was interesting and it was alien, but the little spots, gorgeous. And it looks good on men, on women, on non-binary people. It looks good on everyone.
I would wear spots for days. Honestly, I would. That is just such a brilliant design with a very
So
simple
pretty.
way to achieve. I mean, depending on like how long you're going to be painting, but you could get a stipple brush and just like some really different color foundation and achieve that. And
I was thinking you could
you
get
could do it
stamps, like cheetah
exactly,
stamps, and just do like different, turn the
exactly.
stamp sideways and just go all the way around and be like, done and done. Like, I think that would look gorgeous.
And
Yeah,
then your outfit can be whatever you want to wear because, it doesn't have to be a trill in Starfleet, it could be a trill from the planet, it could be a trill from commerce, could be a trill, a scholar, a teacher, it could be anything. So that look could be whatever you desire it to be. And oh my gosh, just portraying that character, like you can create a bio where your character has lived 6, 7, 8, 10 lives. I mean, I would love to be able to do that. That would be like the best kind of cosplay.
Yeah, and I was gonna put Trill in this, but I didn't because technically in TNG, that's not what the Trill looked like. So I was like, is that cheating? A little bit, but I'm okay with that, probably. But I didn't know how long our conversation was gonna take, so I didn't do it. But yes, that makeup, like I wanted to put it on here so bad just because I think it's pretty and it looks good on everyone. But yeah, technically on TNG, it wasn't what the Trill looked like. And what the Trill actually looked like, I wouldn't pick that one. Personally. At Home with Geek says, I'm a jewelry tech, so I'm a big fan of earrings. Plus, Kira, Kira be wearing them fancy earrings. First of all, jewelry tech, that's neat. What's that? And second of all, yes, the cool thing, like in this scene that I picked for this slide, that's when Ensign Ro puts on the earring piece or whatever. And I kind of love that. Back to our conversation about the Klingon outfits and how there's all these pieces you can add to personalize it. The same thing with the Bajoran jewelry is like you can keep adding pieces, here. Like you can keep adding pieces and they mean something to you and they mean something to the character, which is really, really special.
Yeah, it represents their family line and the religion. Like, everyone's earring is not the same. So you could really personalize it and create a story for why it's that way.
Which is so cool.
Yeah, the ideas, the inspirations is endless.
Which is so cool. PS2 Cypher says, I think I would go Bajoran over Bolian. So there we go. Bolian gets no votes. And then Nadia says, OMG, Dax's wedding dress was epic. Okay, so we're about to get to the final vote. But before we get to the final vote, I wanted an honorable mention for two of the worst costumes I've ever seen on Star Trek The Next Generation. And that is the Anticans versus the Selay. Wow. These were awful. Like when we reviewed this for our podcast, the TNG podcast, a Star Trek show, me and my co-hosts were like, what the F? It looks like they literally went to Party City and were like, you got a dog? You got a snake? We'll take a couple of those. That's what they brought. And when I went and took these screenshots, I was like, why are they so shiny? So this was, I believe, somebody fact check me, but I believe when we did the deep dive, this is before Michael Westmore joined the cast, I think, or maybe he was sick that day, but I think he didn't join until season 2. And it shows because this and then everything else we've seen, which is just like glorious, right? Just so gorgeous, so beautiful, so well done. Not always
have a budget. Like they have a budget and they're like, at one point in season 1, they ran out of money and they said, we have one more episode to do and we have no money for it. So it was a clip show. So
yeah.
How are we seeing costumes from other creature shops and other things from old Hollywood is very common. So this is something you probably saw in a background of, a Hammer horror film that they like just redressed to make it look like a new
I
alien.
have a feeling that they it was the end of season 2, that episode Shades of Grey, which was the clip show, which is dumb. If you haven't seen it in a while, give it a skip. But I have a feeling they probably did spend good money on these outfits because the outfits, granted, I think they look awful. They are extremely detailed. Like they do have full on like robes that go to the ground. The Anticans do have fur coming out of their outfits all the way down to the ground. Like
the hands are prosthetics. Everything.
I do. Yeah. And they can kind of blink their eyes and sort of move their mouths. So there is some kind of like, it's not a full mask because otherwise you wouldn't be able to see any movement. So I have a feeling they probably did spend a good amount of money on these. And it's just really unfortunate that they turned out the way that they did. However, I was recently watching Discovery and I saw in one of the conversations amongst the ambassadors, there was an upgraded Selay, like the most epic glow up. I mean, granted, the whole thing looked CGI, but it was beautiful CGI. I'm not mad at that. It was beautiful CGI. And it was just like a blink and you miss it shot. And it panned over and I paused. I was like, is that the Selay looks so good. It looks so good. I don't know if they ever had the Anticans get a second chance in the show, but
I
I do.
have yet to see it. Like, I have yet to see it, but I'm
Maybe
sure
we'll
in
probably
fan
get lower
fiction
decks.
somewhere there's fan art where someone has, corrected the sins of putting an actor in something that they just can't act through, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and that we did find out, my co-host did find out in the deep dives that the TNG, like all of the special effects and makeup people did admit that whenever they had a furry creature, like a fur monster, it was always a disaster. So they were like, every time we do fur, it's bad. So we try not to do fur. And I agree, every time they do fur, it's bad. But when you look at some of their other things, like the Cardassians, which is their more modern take on snake people, gorgeous.
Hmm.
Like you can see the way the neck goes out, the way a snake's neck goes out, but it looks like a humanoid. It's like these blends where you're like, yeah, or like the benzites, or you're like, yeah, that's exactly what a fish person would look like. I mean, and who could even think like that? I don't know, genius, but it looks really, really good. So it's just the fur people. We're not the secret sauce. We're not the zone of genius. But even in this episode, the snake people weren't either. But thankfully, they got better, way better. And so we're gonna forgive them. But I just wanted to do um, that little honorable mention because I feel like we all need to just acknowledge that that was a thing that happened. Um, Nadia says, LOL truth, Antican and Selay were so bad. I remember you and Andrea going off about that in the podcast. That's pretty much all we talked about that entire episode because it was really, the whole episode was done. Give that whole episode a skip. I think Andrea liked it, but from my perspective, give that whole episode a skip. When Grace says they brought these guys back in the background of Discovery. They did with the Selay. If anybody knows what happened to the Anticans, let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments because Fiona and I, we don't know. We don't know what happened
They
to them.
didn't win that conflict. They were fighting, so they didn't win that conflict, I think.
I feel like they should have though, because they were like, I think at one point, like they ate one of the Selay at the end of the episode. So you would think they would win, but yeah, I think you're right. They didn't win that conflict. At Home with Geek says these look like the costumes from Space Cases. I do not know what that is. I'm guessing that's a show. I don't know what that is. So if that's a show I need to know about, please let me know in the chat. PS2 Cypher says they spent good money, just not good looking money. And now we are down to the final vote. So Fiona and I have had our say, but now it's your turn. If you are watching at this point, let me know in the comments who you think the winner should be. Out of all 10, Q, Guinan, the Romulans, the Vulcans, Klingons, Cardassians, Ferengi, the Borg, Bolians, or Bajorans, who is the number one top dog, most iconic, best costume for all of Star Trek The Next Generation out of these 10? Let me know in the comments. And the one with the most votes is the winner. So we want to hear from you. In the meantime, Fiona, I want to say thank you so much for joining me tonight. This is really fun.
I had a blast. And honestly, if you're going to talk Star Trek anytime, I'm here for it.
I love it. Okay, where can people find you? People have gotten a chance to hear from you. Where can people find you on the internet?
Absolutely. You can find me on all the socials. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can follow me there. Just search for BlerdGirlCosplay. That's blurred with a B. And I just really enjoyed this time. So please check out my other review videos, my cosplays, any kind of photo collage I may do in the future. Definitely check it out. So follow me here on YouTube or wherever you like to you do your socials.
Yeah, so I have a link in the description below that goes to Fiona's link tree, which links to all the things she just mentioned. So we got one easy link that takes you to all the other links that you can check out in the description. I want to say thank you so much to everyone who joined live, and thank you so much to everyone watching on the replay. If you have not done so already, be sure to like and subscribe this video and join us again next week for another live stream. Fiona, hang out for 1 second, and I'm going to end the stream. Good night, everybody, and keep putting your votes in the comments because I wanted to stay here too for the people watching on the replay. I want to see all the votes and see who wins. Have a great night, and I'll see you all next time.